Everybody. Thanks for coming over for this very exciting session, which we are going to talk about on the subject of winning customers in the world of bots, AI, and automation. Now, I can tell you that this particular topic is so very relevant because I can still recall a couple of years back when we all went into a lockdown. The key question, which was all hovering in our heads, is that how are we going to interact with our customers? How are we going to sell? How are we going to build relationships? Because we cannot travel, we cannot meet our customers. So then came the paradigm of contactless selling, came the paradigm of digital channels. And there, technology was a big enabler, and I would say savior in some sense, because we were able to at least carry out some of our tasks, particularly related to the market making and demand generation and demand fulfillment through a lot of these enablers which came in the way of automation and bots and AI. And hence it almost became like a SOP for even times when it was normalized, and hence we see that this is something which is going to become more of a norm, that we are going to rely heavily on these technologies, not just for winning customers, but also for retaining customers, for keeping our customers satisfied, and also serving our customers in a way which is very differentiated. I have a very distinguished panel here with me this afternoon for this very interesting topic which we have. Now, when we are talking about this topic of winning customers, the first thing which comes to our mind is about the digital way of reaching out to our customers. And when we are talking about the way in which we are reaching out to the customers in a digital format, it also creates its own set of, I would say, nuances and challenges in terms of how do you then coexist with the traditional channels, what kind of costs you are talking about, what kind of benefits you can see, and clearly this is something which cannot be ignored. I mean, there are many organizations who are using digital channels, and probably earlier maybe 4 or 5% of the revenues were driven through the digital channels, but now that share has gone up to north of 25% or 30%. So it cannot be ignored in today's world. So I would like to invite the first speaker, Indranil. Given your experience in this space as a customer experience leader, if you can share your thoughts on this particular aspect and your experience of having dealt with many organizations, that will be great, Indranil. Over to you.
Sure, Sudipta, and good afternoon, everybody. Privileged to be part of this panel. So, Sudipta, I'll begin with a small use case which we have faced. This is the 2020 first lockdown. Once it opened up, and lockdown, the support, everything was closed. Everybody was working from home, and we had the traditional channels like you mentioned, voice, email, support, and we saw a massive backlog of customer complaints piling up on our email channel, where we're not able to cope up with the volume, and response time was low. Escalations were going left, right, and center on the response time, because you want service. You come out of a lockdown, your headphone is not working, and that. So that was the time, that was a necessity of mother of all inventions, as it said. So that's the time we started moving on to chatbots. The first thing was, maybe you try out WhatsApp. WhatsApp chat was the first thing we introduced at that time. And because for a productivity perspective, from an customer support perspective, chats are much more handled faster than traditional emails. We could bring down a lot of the volume pendency once we introduced our chat, a normal chat, WhatsApp chat. Uh, Once that was mitigated, we thought, why don't we go a bit further and introduce a chat bot? We put on a chat bot on top of that normal chat, where a customer could do self-service. He could inquire about his products problem, any other questions what he might have. We built that on. And the paradigm shift what we saw is that before the pandemic, the normal channels which were catering to about 75% of the volume shifted to digital channels. So for example, my email volume was about 35% of my total contacts, which is currently down to about 9%. And that shift has happened towards WhatsApp digital channel, which has, and my customers NPS score shot up. That was a great bit. Customers got stickiness onto WhatsApp. They like the channel, they like the faster response rate, and it's on. So the shift has happened from normal channel to digital channel currently. And also from Harman's perspective, because we are a global organization, uh, it's so like you said, we reach out to customers. Support was customers reaching out to us, and on the same side, what we did was that we started using these channels as an alternate model of reaching out to customers, giving them some offers, what they would like, and we saw a great response on that. Probably a conversion rate of about 20% started happening with digital channels. So using chatbots and AI in customer service and in probably sales, which adds up to the overall customer experience, we saw a great impact of that. So yes, having said that, we're going to build on capabilities more of these digital channels, bring in more capabilities, AI, ML driven bots for customers, and we're going to need to continue this.
Perfect. No, I think that's a great a story which you shared with us, that how you kind of took advantage of the crisis and probably turned
Yes.
it into an opportunity by reaching closer to your customers, because they were able to use a different mechanism to interact and solve the problems more efficiently, and that kind of turned into a better NPS score. So that's a very classic example of how we innovated in the face of a crisis using technology as an enabler. So fantastic story, and thanks for sharing that, Indranil.
Thank you,
Now,
Sudipta.
when we are talking about this subject of customer satisfaction and reaching out to customers, it is also very important that who do we define as customers. So we may have some institutional customers, we can have some individual consumers, and it could be a B2B or a B2B2C or a B2C or a D2C. Nowadays we have all kinds of terminologies which we are talking about, and this kind of complexity is will be there, because you may not just want to reach out to your immediate customer, you also want to reach out to your end consumer as well. So maybe this is a great time for me to reach out to Dilraj, from your experience, if you can talk a little bit about how you have used the digital solutions in order to enhance your outreach from a customer growth perspective. That would be great.
Thank you, Sudipta. And just checking whether my voice is audible or is
It
there
is.
any.
It is.
It is.
You are
Thank you.
absolutely
Thank you.
great.
Thank you. Just to introduce myself on the panel for 30 seconds. I am a part of a TAFE group of companies, which we are the second largest manufacturer of a tractor, and we are heavily involved in the rural industry. Our key, reason for existence are farmers. Now, the topic is very exciting. Sudipta, it's winning the heart of the farmer or the customers. And I'll be using farmers and customers, interchangeably with the same meaning. So fundamentally, we believe that you can win the heart. The fundamentals of winning the heart of customer doesn't change. What does customer need? The customer needs that you should genuinely understand their problem. You should genuinely solve their problems. You should be transparent. You should be upfront in giving your commitments, whether you can do it or not. And if you have given any commitment, fulfill your promise and be there when they really need you. Now, whether it's a physical, whether it's a digital, or whether it's a phygital, the fundamentals remain same. And I think that's a core piece which gets further strengthened as we go deeper into the rural market, because that's where the trust really starts, playing a huge role in winning the hearts of the customer. So keeping that fundamental, we always make our digital approach, embedding those things, whether they are solving the problem of a customer in using a very nimble technology, say SMS, right? It doesn't need to be all the time a high-tech technology that mixed reality or a metaverse requires to be done. No, we can solve even it with the SMS if the purpose is solved. If we are there at the time of, in mid of the night also, virtually by even a small 2G phone, and it solves the problem, why not? That's also a part of technology. But the question is, how do we really engage with them? So I'll give you two examples, and which can extrapolate my thought process of how do we really solve the problems. In the COVID time, if you remember, it was month of April, March when the 2020 COVID started. And this is a time when the farmers are on the harvesting time also, or, harvesting time, it has to start. And the next soil preparation has to start. So it was a very, very difficult time for the rural area. Suddenly everything shutting down, and they need tractors on the road, they need surveys. So we incidentally, we had invested something initially in our tractor rental services, which was scaling up, but we thought that it's a blessing in disguise. We need to scale it up immediately. We immediately scaled that services and we provided free rental services. That means we said that we will provide the rent to the farmers. You come through this app, register yourself. We created an Uberization of the tractor, you can say, in India, where the renters can put up their tractors and rentees can take the tractors, marginal tractors, etc., marginal farmers, etc. So we catered more than 2 lakh farmers. We helped farmers to do the soil preparation and harvesting of more than 2 lakh hectares in 4 states. We did it in Tamil Nadu, we did it in some part of MP, we did it in Rajasthan, and we did it in UP. Now, this is where the technology played a role. There was not even a single person. On the ground. We were doing through call center and through the app. And the app was so simple. It was integrated with SMS. It was integrated with GPS technologies, with the call center. Anybody can put up the tractor. Anybody can take the tractor. And we were getting complete information. And we were paying on behalf of the rentees to the renters every week. So we paid to more than 90,000 odd renters in India for the services they provide. And we had a complete transparency. Even the governments also participated in giving the list of the marginal farmers so that we can reach out to them. So the point is that, the myth that marginal farmers don't use technology, they are very comfortable in physical, was completely broken when the farmer with just a 0.3 acres of land, which is hardly anything, and they could come on the app or go through the call center and connect on the app to take a tractor for 1 hour, half an hour, 2 hours for service. And they could revert back with the SMS, or they could revert back with the service confirmation through WhatsApp and all that stuff. So in a way, it became so seamless. So that was the first thing which we thought that now it's the rural has picked up technology in a big way in the last 2-3 years. That's one piece. The second piece of when you talk about winning is when you sell, it's good, but when you provide them service at the 12th hour. And that's where the point here is that how do you really engage and make sure that services are done? So we adopted multiple set of technologies during the COVID time. And at the peak of the COVID, when our service engineers are not able to reach and the mechanics are not available because of lockdown, how a tractor owner or a driver or a related person to tractor could service his tractor using our own app, and also live videos with the service guys so that they can guide. We used our e-commerce channel to supply them the parts at the time where it is required. We used channels like buses and roadways buses to transport the material to the nth spot where the farmer can pick it up, or even the three-wheelers which were computing between the crosses or the villages, borders, etc. at that point of time. We use those elements to transport the material so that they can reach, and we tracked it through using our GPS, apps, etc. So in a way, I think technology played a huge role. But having said this, the only reason we could say we had won the heart, not because we provided these services, we were obliged to provide, but we gave them commitment, whatever we could fulfill, and whatever we could not do, we had to sort out some way, but we were upfront. How do we solve it? How do we solve it using physical and digital medium put together, but be upfront so that they are also able to understand their expectations, matching could be done, and there could be an element of trust for the long term. Because winning a heart is not for 1 day or 2 days, it's a long term. So in a long term, even if you say for certain elements, no, it's not possible, I think it doesn't really make a difference if you are genuinely helping them. So I think these are the two relevant use cases which I thought will be very useful. Using a nimble technology and reaching out to the customers or to the farmers at the right time. I think that helped us to really win their hearts.
No, fascinating story, Dilraj. Absolutely fascinating in terms of creating the platform for the Uberization of tractors, which you mentioned, and also the fact that how information flow and transparency can bring in the trust for you to win the hearts and minds of people, especially during a time when things are not great from an overall, economic perspective, and there are challenges elsewhere. So a great story where you are looking at solving that specific problem, no matter what kind of technologies you use, the laser sharp focus on specifically solving that problem is something which is a great case study, particularly when you are trying to create new channels, trying to create new markets, and also trying to sort of disrupt maybe from a competitive perspective as well. So when we are talking about that, let me switch to another interesting one where the world of financial services really got disrupted, particularly when we are talking about either processing a loan or getting a credit card and all that. We all know that for you to do that, you have to go to a branch, or you have to somebody will come to your house, you have to fill a long form, they will check your documents, and then only will be eligible. Now with all of those processes, it becomes a Herculean challenge that how do you even do that if you want to do it digitally, particularly if you are unable to travel or unable to meet the specific customer or the consumer who is going to use that service. So here I would like to kind of invite Pradeep, if you can share a little bit about how from your perspective, where you kind of transition more from the present status to maybe a contactless world, without really sacrificing anything from a compliance and from a due diligence perspective.
No, sure, absolutely. I hope I'm audible and I'm clear.
Yes, you are, Pradeep.
Super, super. So, quick introduction, Pradeep Khurana. I am the CIO and Chief Digital Officer for SBI Card. I will talk a bit about the ongoing pandemic. I hope you all are keeping safe. But when this pandemic hit us right in the beginning of 2020, I think the world almost changed overnight. And this lockdown was imposed almost overnight. A lot of companies were grappling to respond to it, and I do agree that it caused a fair amount of disruption, irrespective of the industry that you were operating in. So one key thing that we saw was that in this crisis we absolutely wanted to find an opportunity. This was perhaps the biggest black swan event of the century, and in some parlance we call it that this was a black swan with a machine gun, right? So completely unexpected, everything changing overnight. And the good part for our business was that some of the underlying platforms, and I want to talk a little bit about why investing in platforms is so important. Some of the underlying platforms in our company were ready. So we had a new account sourcing platform. We had, of course, the core credit card processing platform. We had a fairly big collections ecosystem, and those are fundamentals of our business. You should have the ability to sell. You should give the ability to give a lot of marketing offers to customers so that customers can spend. And then in the event they don't pay up, you got to knock their door and collect the money, right? So those fundamentals were in place. What was not in place was connecting some of the dots. And when I say connecting some of the dots, it means that, the ability to execute some of those use cases by the customers directly, right? Because traditionally, what you do is, for example, we take a sales process. Our traditional hunting grounds were shopping malls, airports, cinemas. That's where you typically get footfall. And you would find a representative trying to sell you a credit card. And unfortunately, the lockdown shut down all of those. And like I said, all of this happened overnight. So what we did was in my additional responsibility as CDO, we kind of put a lot of agile teams together. And we said, we do have the underlying platforms. Those platforms have proven themselves for scale. Even before the lockdown, we were processing in excess of 300,000 accounts per month, for example, right? So the underlying strength of the platform was there. What was not there was that we did not have those digital experiences stitched together for our customers. So, a lot of agile investment was done. And these were very, very small squads, where the only focus for the squad was how do you enable and empower the customer and give the use of technology directly in the hands of the customer and take out all the men in the middle, if I were to call them that, right? So in every process, whether it was new accounts, but whether it was our spend campaigns, where we did have a bit of a digitization. I think that area was more evolved as against new accounts and collections. But particularly in new accounts and collections, those are traditionally for a credit card, and like Sudipta, you rightly mentioned, those are processes which are human intensive. And particularly for those processes, we ended up giving a lot of digital capability directly to the customers. Now, the good part here is I think a lot of the previous panelists, Dilraj and Indranil, spoke about what their companies did. I think there is a big role of the customer here as well, right? Customers today are using Uber. They are using Ola. They are using Flipkart, Amazon, so they are digitally savvy. As an enterprise, if you do not have digital capability, then there is some amount of inertia, and I would say some amount of handicap that you're already carrying, because customers have experienced digital in some other shape and form. All of them have. And if as an enterprise you haven't responded yet, I would say it's high time to respond. That's point one. And I think the other factor, other than the fact that enterprises continue to invest, is one is customer is ready. They are using digital, whether you provide them or not, they are already there. The other factor is that the ecosystem has evolved. So if you look at the broader interventions from Reserve Bank of India, from NPCI, and I talk about the payment industry, they are building a very good larger ecosystem. Even Government of India, Aadhaar ecosystem, which is now extensively being leveraged for KYC. Every Indian is on that platform. And, so other than the fact that, the enterprises need to continue to be ready, continue to evolve, I think the customers already there, they are experiencing digital. And the ecosystem, the broader ecosystem is also ready. So what we did was, I'm going to talk about digital multi-carding very quickly. So we, because of the handicap of not being able to send people to airports and malls, etc., we extensively rolled out a multi-carding campaign. So digitally, we could offer a product to the customer, and this was done completely centrally, remotely, with about a team of less than 10 people. We ended up doing in excess of 100,000 accounts in about 9 months. So, this was a huge, huge win for our business. So that's one big use case. And here again, because you had cut down the process and brought it completely online, as against a 5 to 7 day wait for a credit card, we brought it down to less than 60 seconds, so this was a huge, huge win for our business. So I think I can go on. I'm very passionate about the topic, but in the interest of time, would hand it back to you, Sudipta, so you can.
No, absolutely, Pradeep, and I'm sure there is a lot more we can talk about it, and it's absolutely fascinating to hear. And a couple of points I would like to just pick up from what you said, Pradeep. One was about the connected nature of working. Your platforms may be there, but how do you then connect the dots, get a 360-degree view of the customer, and then use that information to be more effective in the market? And the second piece is about the expectation of the customers themselves, who have become more savvy. Even if I look at from a regulatory or from a government standpoint, we are seeing that the government is also really pushing for more online and digital. They're talking about the digital currency. They're talking about innovations in the entire payment space and everything. So continuing this conversation in the financial services banking space, I would be keen to get the views of Vinod from your perspective, because you have been leading the data science and analytics initiatives in South Indian Bank. So what will be great to hear from you is your experience of this entire trend which is now emerging, and people are talking about digital banks as well in the same breath. Many people don't even know what it means, but they're still talking about it. So what is your perspective in terms of this space? Would be great to hear from you.
Thanks, Sudipta, for the quick introduction. Uh, Basically, I think what the pandemic has done generally to everybody, across the world, is open up new possibilities. Some things which were, was not even envisaged as feasible, has suddenly become a norm of the day almost overnight. I mean, people were a work from home concept, for example, people always thought that was something restricted to probably a few technology firms, in order to deal with the clients or deal with the suppliers who are sitting abroad. But for an activity, let's say as traditional as banking, I say traditional as, it's got a very long history, isn't it? It was not thought of at all. And then when the pandemic kind of forced the bankers and forced the bank's customers, to deal with each other digitally only, right? It suddenly opened out a lot of opportunities for both of them. It has opened out a lot of opportunities for the bank to both service their existing customers or even seek out their new customers. And for the customers, it has kind of enhanced the expectations of what and all they want to be delivered in their house, when they are sitting in their house. Lockdown or no lockdown, doesn't matter. Even if we are going to the non-mask days, if we'll ever get back to that, right? The expectations of the customers are not going to change. It's there to stay permanently. So they would still want to have the freedom to sit in their house and get the banking products and services delivered to them directly. And I think how this has happened is how the banks have enhanced their analytics capabilities during the period of the pandemic, during the period of the lockdown. So typically, a couple of products were brought in place both by the regulator and have also been devised by the banking, was on the implementation of moratorium, for example, which was mandated by the bank. And there were also those ECLGS guaranteed loans, which had to be given to customers who were not in delinquent buckets. So it's kind of put the onus on the banks to develop their digital capabilities post facto. It's not something that, it could develop it and then get ready for the pandemic. We really didn't have a choice. I mean, we had to give the ECLGS loans. We had to, implement the moratorium, all sitting in houses. So all of that was possible by also capitalizing on the digital capabilities of the technology service providers, or by the analytics consulting firms who could come up with, with whom we could really come up with, let's say, something like a predictive model that will help us to better estimate the probability of default of the customer. We could go back to the the technology service providers, tell them that probably this is the kind of scorecard that we were able to develop, so let's kind of implement that. So, and now that we have kind of tasted success in developing the predictive models or in implementing and deploying those models, that has now become the norm of the day. And today, as we are speaking, it is in a situation where this kind of exploitation, if that's the right word to use here, of the technological capabilities, of the analytics capabilities, is not something which is restricted to within the banking system. So, for example, we want to explore if we can give somebody a car loan, for example. There is also a requirement for the banks to collaborate with the car dealers or with even the manufacturers, look at what kind of analytics capabilities that those entities are having, marry them together and come up with a delightful product to a customer. I mean, that kind of a product can be that, this person wants to buy a specific car, right? So is there a seamless process we are offering in not only ensuring that, he gets the car that he wants, but can we marry it and say that, now that you finalize the loan, why don't you put in your debit card number or, and make your, upfront payment, and your loan is sanctioned within seconds. So I think the technology, as I see it, is the body, is the structure, which is as important as the analytics, as the predictive models, which is kind of the brain or the mind. I think with that kind of marriage, I think I think that's the only way we are going to delight the customers. The second aspect is about how well will we know our customers. For example, when the customer is thinking of buying, let's say an electronic item, right? And he's browsing through Amazon because that's the way he's, shopping nowadays. Or even, let's say, he physically visits some kind of a electronic showroom. Does the bank, will the bank have the capability to approach the customer at that point itself? Or maybe even before that point, just before that particular point, so that the right product is kind of offered. Because it's important that we know that he's going to buy the television, and therefore it's very important that when he's at the showroom or when he's browsing the Amazon, we tell him that, you know what, this product is available. And all of this is actually feasible. I mean, every bank's app, kind of gets permission from the customer to notify it of the location. And it's a question of, knowing that at this particular latitude, longitude coordinate, it is an electronic shop. And since that is where the customer is, probably that is when we need to approach them. So all of that is becoming feasible. Third aspect, which I want to talk about, and this is not as much about delighting the customer, right, as it is about choosing the right customer. And I think Sudipta, you had also touched the point about, the need to talk to the right, identifying the right customer. So I think this is where, the models which estimate the probability of default, need to be honed up so well that we look beyond the traditional methods of risk management, like, the income or the banking or the track record, so on and so forth, looks much more deeper, and comes up with strong algorithms in accurately predicting the probability of default. So that we really don't want to be in a situation that we've got great technology of, and the analytics to identify what the customer needs. But hey, you know what? We actually didn't need him. I mean, the customer may have needed us, but he's probably an industry defaulter, to take a very simplistic example, or he's really not that good yet for for giving a loan for that particular product. So that is something that we need to know upfront, probably even before knowing what the customer needs. And taking off from the point that Dilraj had mentioned, he was completely bang on about the farmers or the penetration of digitization in the rural sphere. In one of my previous organizations, I was working with Tata Motors Finance before. There was one small survey results which we managed to see, and where we found that digital people are bigger users of the voice-based search than probably even metro users, probably because of the language barrier, or the need to type out, let's say, English or even Hindi on the screen. They find it much easier to press the mic button and ask for what they want to have, right? And therefore, that's much less capitalized today than probably the how much we have capitalized on the the metro customers.
Well, that's great, Vinod. I think, you touched upon a number of very important aspects related to the fact that, well, there was not much of a choice but to innovate, but also use that as an opportunity to see how analytics can actually enable in some of the very core processes, sourcing of customers, keeping the customers happy, and also managing the risk when you are having a set of customers as well. And intelligence at the moment is so very critical to kind of sway the decision one way or the other, which makes it a lot more actionable than something which is being done as a report or as a dashboard. So I think those are really great points. And I think if I continue in that theme, we would see that if there was one thing which there was a silver lining, that was the return of the retail investors in the capital markets in the last couple of years, which is also shown in the percentage of people who are getting more used to getting invested in the capital markets. And why I brought this up is because I would want to really hear the views from Abhijit, that from your perspective, what has changed, and what is it that your perspective is in terms of usage of digital channels to harness this trend and this demand which we are seeing.
Thank you, Sudipta. I think even before I start, I would like to kind of quickly quote a Hindi saying, "Nav navik ko aage badhata hai, or navik nav ko aage badhata hai." So I mean, it's for people who don't understand Hindi, boatman pushes the boat ahead and boat pushes the boatman ahead. I mean, it's the thing that is happening with the current disruption in digital space. Technology disruption in digital is changing the customer behavior. And conversely, the millennial customers' behavior is influencing and driving the technology innovation. So I think it's working on both the sides. And if I just want to kind of quickly touch upon some of the recent figures, the e-commerce share of total retail sales was almost 3 to 5 times higher than the pre-pandemic era, during pandemic and post-pandemic. And then it was predominantly in the 8 developed countries. I mean, this was which will attribute to almost, you can say, 45% of the world population and 60% of world GDP. I think this is a huge, huge change when it comes to pandemic and post-pandemic era. I think, and then with the kind of surge of data, almost 185 zettabytes going to touch in 2025, we can expect a big wave of digital hitting us, I mean, in the next coming years. And I think as an organization, we need to be prepared. Even before the pandemic approached us, I think as an organization, the machinery was intact for us. I mean, we had most of our digital assets well-oiled and functioning well even before the pandemic hit us. I think more to do with our chatbots, and we have been pioneers in the conversational e-commerce platform. I mean, our customers are able to kind of talk on our apps, and they are able to kind of do transactions. Secondly, what has helped us is the channel that we developed on WhatsApp. That was extremely handy during this pandemic. I think what went in our terms was a complete onboarding, doing the KYC, using WhatsApp channel. I think that was really handy for us. And then I think that helped us a lot. Now we are in the process of adding more transactional capabilities on the WhatsApp channel. And the trend that came up at that point in time when people started using these channels, which were not used just while, that has continued even post-pandemic. So we are seeing the same level of stickiness of the consumers onto these channels even post-pandemic. I think from a customer experience strategy, if you ask me, we have a new normal for all the hybrid customers. And I think hyper-personalization is something which is going to be continuing and going beyond what we were doing erstwhile. I think personalization is not going to just restrict ourselves to some similarity-based recommendation engines, but I think I concur with what Vinod was saying. I mean, it's going to be understanding the customer in real time, the context of the customer, his location, where he is, what transactions he has recently did, what tickets he has raised with our call center, and which social media sites he has recently visited, which blogs he has kind of typed in, which comments, what comments he has put on what logs, what likes he has done. I think all of this is going to kind of generate the context for that person, or rather I could say a real-time context for that person, by virtue of which the organizations will be in a better positions to make a targeted interaction with that customer. And this targeted interaction is going to be the relevant interaction with this customer. I think going forward, the level of personalization will define how much a brand really cares for its customer, if you really look at it that way. And I think it has to be a balance. When I say all of this, it's leading to a frictionless experience, a seamless experience, but then it has to be a balance. There has to be a balance between frictionless experience versus the secured experience. So how you provide the most secured experience while we are giving them a complete seamless channels to be used. I think second point that I wanted to put across is the way the digital channels have been equipped with the AI capability, specifically a robo advisor when it comes to kind of helping the investors to make the choices and to kind of guide them. We have adopted a goal-based investment theory. I mean, where there is a kind of a hint given to the users that how we can be doing the right choice. I mean, as an entity, we are not supposed to be advisors, and we don't do that specifically. I mean, but we can actually guide them with regards to what will be the outcome if you make these choices. So I think using the AI to the best of its capability to kind of enable the users to make the right choices, that is what becomes very handy in this coming scenarios. And I think the third point, which I want to kind of quickly touch upon, is about the augmented reality and virtual reality solutions that are kind of emerging. I mean, in the financial space specifically, because I think all this while it was more to do with the retail industry. And most of the use cases were focusing on customer experience. While when it comes to financial industry, these solutions are focusing on the sales, the operations teams, the traders, the portfolio managers. I think that's the kind of a scenario where the solutions are trying to create a virtual 3D holographic environment for these users to kind of deal with a large, complex data volumes. So I think I will take a pause, Sudipta. I was trying to touch these three things from asset management perspective.
No, absolutely, Abhijit. Great to hear your views on that. And I actually picked up a couple of points. One was more around the targeting, the hyper personalization, and also being able to build that trust using the robo advisors, which is very very integral to the entire way in which the customers get engaged. But you actually mentioned a very interesting thing, which is about the fact that augmented reality and virtual reality, and we are actually now talking about the digital twins of every process, whether it is a supply chain, whether it is a manufacturing facility, whether it is about your any other processes, because we can experiment on a digital twin in a cost effective and quick manner before we can actually put it back in the physical world. So since we are talking about that, I would like to invite Neelima from your experience. Whilst we are talking about customers and you are experienced in manufacturing, but the two cannot be de-linked at all, because we are talking about more demanding customers. We are talking about shortening of the development of new products, and we're also talking about how do you increase the service or enhance the service to your customers. So your thoughts purely from the perspective of manufacturing, from dealing with the B2B or maybe B2B2C customers, and also what kind of innovation which you are seeing and you have experienced in this space will be great.
Thank you so much, Sudipta. Just a quick introduction. I am Neelima Sharma, working as Principal Solution Architect for Smart Manufacturing at ESL Steel Limited. We are a steel maker, and we're proud to say that, yes, we are everywhere, being a Vedanta family. So now coming to the topic with respect to the customers, I just would like to put few words from my side, wherein the change is enormous, and the pace with which change is happening, you all can see it is going beyond what we actually expect. So what our chairman says today, if you are not digital, you are not going to survive. And there are and there will be challenges in the world where you will sometimes feel that I may get down, will not be able to make it. But he always inspires us that challenges are there, take it up, and you can be a person who is going to be the survivor, let it be the last one. So that is how we always motivate us, and we think digitally in all those aspects. Now, as a leader, none of the corners should be untouched from our side. We look forward not just towards our customer, but as a customer. So first, talking about the customer, it is like when I talk about customer, 3-4 quick things which come to our mind. First, the query related to them. So we are like, whenever we are talking about customer, they should come to us, rather we should go to them and be slightly in advance in nature to know what they actually want. So for that reason, there are solutions around artificial intelligence, related bots, which can come up specifically solving the FAQ related to the customers. And that is the model which we have followed in our e-commerce model. Coming to the orders which they get to us, giving them the visibility in terms of multiple platforms. We already have SAP S4 HANA around us. We have Tiwari on top of it, giving us the analytical aspect of it. But giving them recommendation, trying NLP different models, that is what we are doing, so that whatever order they are giving to us, they can get a collaborative insight that what all can be picked up. So this gives them a better visibility in terms of approaching us. Now, whenever we talk about feedback, be it a positive or the negative, is what is our more focused area. There are solutions around sentimental analysis, which gives us insight regarding that how and what they are actually expecting for us. What are the key areas where we need to focus rather than they coming up. So zero customer complaint is what is being targeted, and technology is a game changer providing us that particular thing. Now, when I talk about reaching customer, we ourselves are customer to multiple business providers. Now, when the pandemic situation was there were certain cases where they need to come down. And manufacturing industry, you all know that it cannot be done online on a computer just itself. So we prefer going ahead with the augmented reality technology, where we are utilizing the Google Glass, giving them visibility with respect to our maintenance practices. So not only the business partners, even our managers were able to guide the people on ground. But when I say people on ground, then there comes, the digital capability associated with them. So we have not even lost that insight that if we are growing or emerging in terms of technology, we should not lose the insight. How we are growing or upskilling our people. We have gone with the programs like Digital One-on-One, wherein we have partnered with NESCOM, and we have tried educating the people at basic level where we are going. In addition to that, we have a specialized program around, data scientist program, which helped our key members to take initiative and think digitally, reinventing, re-engineering our processes to improve the productivity aspect of it. So these are the few things. On top of it, I say each and every member working in our company, be it right from the worker coming daily, or be it any of the shift in charge, be it any of the IT engineer, be it anyone in enabling function, everybody needs to think digitally and think innovatively to go ahead and gain the importance and a competitive edge in the market. That's what is being promoted here. And they all are playing a key role to lead towards the championship. That is what, in simple line, I would like to say. So this is how if each and everyone internally taking the other one as a customer and working like towards them. For example, I give few examples specifically related to manufacturing. If there are PLCs around which are giving me the data, if they are not interconnected in terms of the digital dots, the other unit will not be able to know the details around it. So if for example, how my center is performing, if blast furnace is not knowing, then there will not be any connection around that. Historian comes into picture as a solution wherein we are bringing these digital dots connected and giving solution around it. We have also utilized the Power BI model, wherein that is giving me analytics on top of it. However, yeah, we are progressing. We have just initiated, but this is how we go ahead, connecting the digital dots among us, having a proper SLA defined and process scorecard, which itself tells where we are and where we need to improve, specifically with respect to the parameters. So on top of it, would like to say that Ultimately, having a resonance, giving a real-time experience is what we should do. Safety is the key critical thing which we look forward for our customer as well as for everyone coming to our company. We have also utilized the virtual reality for training our people, specifically on our Vedanta asset visa framework. So where it says or talk about, whenever we are doing any electrical job, Bluetooth has to be there. That is a virtual environment created for all of them. They are practicing, and surprisingly, everyone who was working for us, being it a welder, being it a grinder, they're experiencing it. When the people is going for work at height, working on a plant, this is what they are experiencing. And they say yes. That is the emotional connect we are able to establish. That is the reality which we are able to feel below. Before we go to that actual problem, we are able to experience it right away. So that is how the technology helping us out. And we see, if we see everyone as a customer, we are here for the customer, then automatically the customer delight or satisfaction will come into picture, and that's what is our target.
Sure, Neelima. I think this is absolutely fascinating to hear from you, particularly the point around reducing the friction for your customers by giving them the right information, being able to partner with them, giving them advanced information, and treating each other as internal customers of each other. Absolutely great thoughts. Now, we would like to kind of switch to the next theme around the fact that from a life insurance perspective, we have seen that this particular space has really disrupted over the years, and the expectations of the customers have also changed. They have become more sophisticated. Many organizations have become digital first in this space. So would be great to hear, Ashish, your thoughts from your experience. You're also leading the marketing efforts of the organization. So maybe you can combine both your technical and your business acumen together and share your experience.
Thanks, Sudipta. I think there are some great thoughts which have come from our fellow panelists. Just to introduce, I lead digital and marketing, so brand and digital for Future Generali India Life Insurance. Okay, see, I think that while before COVID we used to call whatever we used to call BC and ED. I have an acronym for that. BC and ED has become BC and AC. So it is before COVID and after COVID. And these are two different words which we are living. Okay. If you look at, and as a marketer, when you look at, there are 5 moments of truth in any consumer journey. When he or she is passive to category, actively active into category, actively looking out, transacting, and post purchase. Interestingly, insurance or life insurance, particularly in as a business, is a very, very long-term business. Okay, and unlike a product business or multiple other businesses, this is a business whereas you have to sell the same customer not once. You have to sell to the same customer 12 times a year over next 20 years or 30 years, whatever it is. Okay, because of you can get out of remaining a customer the moment you decide I will not pay this month's premium if you are on monthly. Okay, and hence it is very, very important for life insurers to remain in touch with their customers. Now, coming back on the digital practices, my firm belief is there is a physical organization, there could be a phygital organization, and then there is a digital organization. And more cliched word as phygital, the only difference between a physical organization enabled by technology is, from a consumer point of view, the consumer still remains outside the organization. So you kind of weave the entire tech stack around the organization to be able to get in touch. However, in the BC or the AC era which we are talking about, the businesses which are succeeding are the ones which are thinking digital. And the only difference in thinking digital is you put the consumer at the center and weave the organization around it. It's not about saying, for example, reaching out to customer. You created a website and you reach out to customer. Is your website enabling consumers to interact, create? In the Web 2.0, the difference which Web 2.0 brings in, on which we are currently, and we are slowly and gradually transiting to Web 3.0, as the word claims to be, okay, or as a marketer, I mean, if I don't throw some acronyms, I will not be named as marketer. So, I mean, my kind of Hippocratic oath that I will jargonize everything. Okay, so if you look at in that kind of a word, you are, I mean, the fundamental of Web 2.0 is that the consumer is not only consuming, but also creating. Okay, is your organization aligning for the creation? What we did, one of the very simple things, for example, and I agree with completely with Dilraj, technology, we don't need to think from tech point of view that just because of there is a artificial intelligence is available, I got to do it. It is about what is it that I can do? How can I make an experience for consumer effortless? And consumers today are neither fully physical nor fully digital. Whether, I mean, I'm sorry to say that, but they are looking for a phygital experience, whereas human touch has to come in. And technology with human touch is what is winning. So what did we do? We do very simple of the example. We installed something called as a consumer lifetime communication plan. That plan is enabled at multiple different levels. Okay. The second thing which we did was earlier, if you would have heard, and most of the distribution friends will agree with me, there are 2-tier distribution, 3-tier distribution, all these tiers. When you think of a tier-wise distribution, you are thinking of a hierarchy. There is an organization, there is a somebody who is distributing, and there is a consumer. In the digital words, my friend, it is a circular distribution. There is no hierarchy. It's flat. It's just flat. It's you and consumer and everybody else. I mean, the technology or the distributor need to come in there. What did we do? For example, we started something called as a very simple thing, local SEO. So earlier, the consumer, and especially in pandemic, both things. I mean, for life insurance, it was a heavy stress time which we are going through right now. Your existing customers want to know from you whether they are covered for COVID, what happens if something was to go and something untoward was to happen, how can they increase, how can they get more, I think, the more safety and security. And it's a business of, remember that life insurance is a business of community of interest based on trust. And to be able to enable trust and be able to strengthen that community of interest, you need to make him feel like a community. We installed a local SEO, which is very, very simple thing. It's not rocket science, available for years there. For most of our retail, the distributors or agents, as we call it, okay, what it helped them today, I mean, over a year, monthly we generate almost about 1.6 million calls from interactions between consumer and this retailer. I don't need to put a 1,000 people call center at the back end because of this guy still wants to speak to somebody. I mean, he wants to be reassured. The consumer, he or she wants to be reassured that their interests are protected. Things like, for example, the seamless integration of web bot, both, and this is bot which is available either on SMS or on WhatsApp or on web. All three are seamlessly integrated and they are able to pull out information and give it out to consumers. The kind of we changed completely the entire content strategy had to change from what kind of a content we were serving earlier to what kind of a content we are making now. How did we go about making consumer a creator? So earlier, I mean, to build trust, there is nothing better than getting a consumer testimonial. We have enabled a complete very, very simple digi solution. Whereas, for example, we used to, I mean, life insurance, you need to go through something called as PIVC, PLBC, which is pre-login verification call, post-login verification call, and post-issuance and things like that. Whereas somebody will call and check that, have you understood the policy? We made it video-based KYC. Now, in a video-based KYC, and that also at the back end, there is a text certainly. I mean, you have entire AI, ML, everything doing the job. But to a consumer, it's a link which comes to him. So, I mean, rather than meeting your agent, you are now interacting with the agent either on a voice or on a video and being able to transact. And I think that way we have been able to get the consumer integrated into business. I mean, almost good number of processes inside the organization, both acquisition, experiencing, servicing, retention, as well as the upsell, cross-sell had to go through the entire, not had to be made digital, but had to be rewritten to think consumer as a center and weaving the process around it. And that has actually helped. I think my retention has gone up by several basis points. My NPS has almost shot up by good 30-odd%. The consumer ATS, which is average ticket size for other industries. For us, we call it a AP, annual premium equivalent. How much premium you are paying, that has gone up. Not only that, our claim time has come down. The amount of time it takes to register and process the claim has been cut down. And these all things have actually helped, and tech stack has helped us deliver. Human experience has helped us curate. So that is what I think has been very, very helpful.
Sure, absolutely great, Ashish. Great to hear from you. And you mentioned a very important point about customer being the focal point of everything. And I'll try and extend that theme a little bit more from the perspective of a marketplace. And there I would like to invite Mukesh, from your perspective, what is it that you are seeing? Because everybody's talking about a platform economy, everybody's talking about marketplace, everybody's talking about leveling the playing field across the information which is there across different products and services. So wanted to hear your thoughts, Mukesh.
Thank you very much, Sudipta. Hello, everyone. So a quick introduction. I am with the org called PB Fintech, which holds India's two most reputed brand, Policybazaar and Paisabazaar, and I take care of technology for Paisabazaar. Now, coming to the discussion. Look, a very relevant point, and I think like majority of the point has already been covered by my fellow panelists. So there is nothing new to add to it. It's just we all are at a consensus where we understand like a customer is, you cannot have a one-sided conversation with the customer. You need to have a two-sided conversation with the customer, and it's not like a 9 to 5 of a game. It has to be a conversation which keeps going on before you sell. It's not like a sale kind of thing or a marketing kind of thing. You have to build a relationship with your customer, and once you build a relationship, then you can offer the best products to the customer, which is best for customer, not best for the org. Because once you think customer experience first, of course revenue will anyways will follow. So even if you see, our existence is solely dependent on how well we serve our customer, from acquisition of a customer to throwing up the best offers, to fulfillment, to collections, or to re-engagement, retargeting, or if you see all of this is and every single layer, whatever the steps I'm saying, be it is acquisition, fulfillment, or best offer, everything has their own a plethora of solutions, technologies, innovations happening. In acquisition, you see, you need to identify the right customer, so you use a channel. You see a channel propensity. You understand your customer. You see like what are the channels where customer is most active, and what are the channels where he responds. What are the convenient time for a customer, and you try to pitch that product to customer on those channels. And at that point of time, when once you have reached out to him, and he is there to have a product, then you need to give the best product to him. So if you have a data, you can use that data. You can use the machine learning or a data science, or build a model on top of it. You can create a scorecard or whatever the best model it suits to your org or your product, and you can pitch a right product to him, which is where you can see like it'll yield the best benefit to the customer. Once you have that, and then of course the onboarding process, since most of us are here from BFSI, so onboarding process we all understand. You have to do income verification, KYC verification, address verification, e-agreement. All this has already been done and in a digitized fashion, right? So you can use your KYC, you can use digital signatures, all digital agreements. Those things you have to build that pipeline. Once that's done, then there's a dispersal or a fulfillment, which is happening anyways digitally. And then there are collections or a retargeting. And for the retargeting, of course, you need to understand your customer better, and you need to retarget it at a right time with the right amount of data. You need not to bombard the customer. So of course, when Ashish mentioned like customer is a center of everything. So of course you have to pivot yourself, your entire business towards a customer. And once you pivot along the customer, things become very straightforward to you, like how should you solve a particular problem. And especially if you see, like I'll just wrap it up, because I know we are already taken a lot of time, so I'll just wrap it up. Look, Mr. Nadella has said the amount of digitization which has happened in last 10 years, in last 1 year, has not happened in a decade. Now that statement itself is a large statement to justify like what's happening overall. And we all have seen pandemic. It's not like just we have seen the pandemic. We are all struggled, we all fixed, we all used best of the technologies to ensure like we run business, we service our customers, we deliver the best product to the customers, and we create an ecosystem where everybody is happy and using the digital means. Of course, there are other things also with when everything goes digital, you have you need to have a fraud prevention, fraud control. There are other identity frauds and threats, but I keep them aside because the point or a locus of a discussion is like how to win a customer in this digital era. So the simple stuff is make it a two-sided conversation, whatever means works for you. If it is a bot, if it is a voice bot, if it is a simple conversation, a chat, or even a conversational UI, whatever works best for you, we should appreciate that and should focus ourselves toward that kind of thing. So yeah.
No, thank you very much, Mukesh. I think this is great to hear from you, and I'm sure we could have carried on for one more hour with the richness of the conversation we are having. But unfortunately, we do have a hard stop. But I think we had a very fascinating conversation which covered a lot of aspects around how do you reach out to your customers, build trust, create platforms, enable your customers self-service, give them more visibility, have the right touch points, get the intelligence in the moment. I think we talked about a huge array of applications and use cases which is enabled by technologies like AI, like chatbot, like automation solutions. And I'm sure our audience would have got a very good glimpse of what we are looking from the perspective of multiple sectors, whether it is automotive or it is financial services or it is media and entertainment and all of that. So thank you very much to all my co-panelists for a very insightful and very incisive set of comments on this very important and interesting topic. To my audience, thank you for patiently listening, and hope this has been of big help to you. Thank you very much.